So lesson 6 is really split up into two different types of concepts. It's called cross sections because that's the main idea, but before you can talk about cross sections, there are a lot of different concepts with 3D figures and two-dimensional shapes that you need to consider before that. So this video only talks about all of the things before cross sections, and the next video actually shows about what a cross section is and how to find cross sections. So the first thing is this video is basically mostly all vocabulary. First thing you talk about three-dimensional. First of all, remember three-dimensional means it has length, width, and height. And the first two we're starting off with is prisms and pyramids. And so here you have a prism and a pyramid, and you have to be able to tell the difference between the two. Well, most of you can look at these shapes and say, I know this is the pyramid, I know this is the prism. But you have to be able to explain why. And a prism has at least two congruent parallel faces. Now a face is just a flat surface. So notice those are all faces. And the bottom, that's all faces. So congruent means they're the exact same shape and size. Obviously you know these two are not the exact same shape and size. They also have to be parallel. Parallel means they will never intersect. A lot of you probably think of lines. Two lines that are parallel go on forever and they will never intersect. Well, bases can do the same, or a face can do the same. So notice this face and this face intersect. This face and this face intersect, and this one also intersects. So none of those can be our bases. But the triangle there and the triangle on the bottom are the exact same shape and size, and they will never touch. They have all of this space in between. So this is a prism because there are two congruent parallel bases. At least two. In the case of something like a cube, you have the top and the bottom are parallel and congruent. These two sides are parallel and congruent, and the front and the back are also parallel and congruent. So this actually has three pairs of bases that you could choose from. So it's at least two. A pyramid, on the other hand, only has one base, and all of the other sides will be a triangle that meets up at the top at one vertex. So pyramid has one base, prism will always have at least two. Then we come on to, this page is actually 594 in your workbook if you want to look at it as I go through. A plane is a flat surface that goes on forever in all directions. This is hard to give you a visual because we don't quite have a flat surface that you can see that goes on forever. You could think of it as the ground, and I know we have some bumps in the ground, but overall you can think of that as your flat surface. But it doesn't actually stay flat because we know the world is round. Okay, so the best way I can describe it to you is in the building, the floor goes on forever throughout the building, and that's a flat surface. Coplanar. Coplanar just means they are on the same plane. So notice they're using that shaded piece as the plane they're talking about, and they said AB and DC are coplanar. They are on the same plane. You could also think about it as AB and BC. Those are also on the same plane. Or maybe you want to think of it as AD and BC. Those are also on the plane J. Alright, so it just means they are on the same plane. Parallel, we talked about, it means they will never intersect. You can have lines that are parallel, or planes that are parallel. It can be either ones. Next one is a polyhedron. A polyhedron is a three-dimensional figure with flat surfaces that are polygons. So, this is a polyhedron. Three-dimensional figure, all of the faces are flat, or all of the, I guess a face is a flat surface, so all of the sides are flat. Flat, it's a polyhedron. A cone is not a polyhedron because you have a flat surface, but then you also have a curved side here. A cylinder is not a polyhedron. Again, you have two flat surfaces, but also a curved surface, so that is not a polyhedron. So the two polyhedrons that we are talking about are pyramids and prisms. Within the polyhedrons, there are more vocabulary words that you need to know. Edge, face, and vertex are the first three that are important. An edge is where two planes meet. So this plane and the bottom plane, those meet at this edge right here. This shape has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges. This one has 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. A face is a flat surface. So in this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces. In this case we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A vertex is where three or more planes intersect at a point. So plane, plane, and plane all come together at a point. A vertex is basically like a corner. So here, and the plural is vertices. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices. And we're going to jump down to skew lines. Skew lines are the most difficult. Skew lines do not intersect and are not coplanar, so not on the same plane. So you just have a pair of lines, and this could be something like HE, AB. Those two segments, HE and AB, will never intersect, and they are not on the same plane. Last part is cone and cylinder. A cylinder has two parallel congruent circular bases, always will be circular, always will be parallel, and a curved surface. A cone has one circular base connected by a curved surface to a single vertex, the top. So what all this means is you have to put all of that information together and fill out these parts of the homework problem. So the first one, you look at this and you have to name it. Prism or pyramid. This is a prism. And you also have to name what type it is. Well, you name it by its base. The shape of the base here is a triangle, so it's a triangular prism. This one's going to be a rectangular prism because all of the different bases here are rectangles. The next one, bases. Here we knew our two bases were those two triangles, so they did RSV and UTW. In this case, our bases are going to be made up of rectangles, so we'll need 4 letters. And this one is kind of like, you can think of it as this classroom. The top and the bottom, so the ceiling and the floor, are two parallel congruent bases. So we'd have A, B, C, D with E, F, G, H. Then another pair would be the two sides, A, D, H, E. with B, C, G, F. And the last one would be the front and the back. D, C, G, H with A, B, F, E. The faces, well, in this case, every face was used in a pair of bases, so we would just repeat all of those. Notice here, every time your base will also be a face. Okay? This one also includes the three other sides, so R, S, T, U, the bottom, the R, V, W, U, they just put it in a different order is what I said, and the other side, S, T, W, V. And again, they just put it in a different order than I did. When you're naming, make sure you start with a letter and work your way around. Don't go S, W, T, V. You have to go in order. Okay? So all of these bases would also be faces, so you would just rewrite them, and you wouldn't have to put the ands in between because it's not a pair anymore. They're just all faces individually. The edges. The edges, I would just go around and kind of highlight them as you go. AB, BC, DC, AD, and write them all out. When you write an, I'm sorry, this is an edge. I'm moving on too far. There we go. I'd put a line above. That's how you do a line segment. BC, DC, AD, we'd have AE, DH, CG, BF. And then going around the bottom, EF, FG, GH, EH. Okay, that's all of our edges. Vertices, remember, are all of the like corners where 3 or more planes meet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, F, G, H. And the skew lines, again, need to be 2 lines that are not intersecting and are not parallel. So I'm going to go with DH and FG. In this case, there are a lot of examples. This is not the only answer that you could have for skew lines. Okay, I know that was a lot of information coming at you. Make sure you really know your vocab. These are basically impossible to do if you don't know the vocabulary words.